The subconscious is autopilot. The moment the conscious is not paying any attention about something, subconscious sits in and starts driving the car according to the program, and that's where the issues come from.
Have you ever felt like you are consciously trying so hard to succeed, but something invisible keeps pulling you back into your old habits? That's truly your subconscious mind at work. So today we are reacting to this video and diving deep to how to reprogram that inner blueprint so your brain actually works with you instead of against you. This is Bruce Lipton explaining to us how to reprogram the mind. So let's get into the video and see if you're gonna learn one or few things.
The subconscious programs were downloaded by observing other people. So when you're playing your subconscious, you're not playing you're playing your download, really. And you don't see it because you're thinking, but everybody else sees the response. And this is where the whole disconnect comes in, because people think, oh, I'm a happy, wonderful, loving person, and they have trouble out in the world, and they don't understand it, but what they're missing is you're not playing that happy, loving person except 5% of the day. 95% of our behavior is coming from below consciousness.
Wow. 95%?
And we're the ones that can't see it when we play it, but everybody else, of course, is seeing exactly what we're doing. So the whole idea is, are you living the life you want, or are you living the life you've been programmed? And the answer, unfortunately, is most of us are living the life we've been programmed, and the programming comes from other people. So it's not our lives.
Yeah, this is such a key point, because as you're just demonstrating there, right, we can see patterns in other people so clearly.
But they don't see it as well as you do it.
Yeah.
Well, the reason, let's give a reason why programming occurs, okay? The brain is a computer, most powerful computer that humans have ever experienced. But it has parallels to computers. And number one is this. In the old days, when you would buy a computer before they put the programs in, you could bring it home, brand new computer, plug it in, push start, boots up, screen's on, and I say, do something. And people, well, no, I can't do anything. So you got a brand new computer. No. First, you have to put programs into a computer before you can use that computer. The brain of a human is the same thing. The screen lights up in the last trimester of pregnancy. It's ready, but there are no programs. So the first 7 years of a child's life is the brain is not operating at the higher level of consciousness, higher level, higher vibration. That's what we talk about. We put wires on a person's head, electroencephalograph, read brain function. A child up through 7 is not operating at consciousness except for a little bit. It's primarily operating at a lower vibration called theta. And I said, well, what is theta? I say, it's expressed as imagination. So that's how children can have a tea party and they pour nothing into the cup and then they drink the nothing and then they explain how that was the best tea they ever had. Or a child rides a broom saying it's a horse. In the child's mind, that is not a broom, it's a horse. But it's mixing imagination and reality. But theta is hypnosis. And the significance of that is children have to learn how to become a member of a family, the rules. Member of a community, the rules. I go, how can an infant, a young kid, learn these rules? They can't go to school, they can't read the book and all that. And I say, you don't have to. Nature provided theta, hypnosis, so that they can observe the parents, the family, and the community. Just observe their behavior and download those as programs. Age 7, then that's when they start to become more conscious and engaging themselves. So the first 7 years is programming, and then after that, we play, actually, unfortunately, 5% of our life from our creative conscious mind, 95% from the program. Interesting point.
Wow. If you are creating our lives with 95% from our subconscious mind and 5% our conscious mind, then what are we doing right now? What are we doing so that we can at least change the percentage, maybe to be either 90 or 95 our conscious mind? What are we doing to improve ourselves so that we can reprogram ourselves? Because if this is something that has been going on, maybe from the time you were 7 years or 8 up until now, I don't know your age, I don't know if you're 20 or 30, whatever age you are at now, what are we doing? What are you doing to make sure that whatever that is ingrained in you, you can go beyond it and start doing things consciously at this point? Okay, let's watch.
Is this a new idea? And I go, 400 years, the Jesuits have told their followers, give me a child until it is 7, and I will show you the man. And what they knew is exactly what we just said. First 7 years is programming, but after age 7, 95% of your life is coming from that program. So if you can program the child for the first 7 years, then the rest of the life of that child is actually an expression of that program.
This is just fascinating me. If, let's say, I become a parent right now, would my child still be programmed like the same way I was still young, or you, or even if you're a parent right now, what are you doing to make sure that your child is fed with the right information or is programmed with the right things, so that when he becomes an adult, he can be someone different from us or other people who are just flowing with the majority? So for any parent or someone who at any point become a parent, then we have to be so cautious with what we are doing to our kids, especially when they are still young. As he's explaining, you can see between age 0 to 7, it's very crucial to any child or any young kid, for everything they consume, everything they are told, everything they do at that time really matters in their upbringing and even when they become older. Let's see.
Yeah, it's interesting. We've covered, I guess, similar themes on this show in the past, but through a different lens. That our childhoods are hugely influential in terms of our adult behaviors. We develop, we adapt. So, we take on certain behaviors to survive, to be accepted by our caregivers, to get the love and the validation from our parents or whoever might be looking after us, our teachers maybe. And they potentially served us well as children, but we're still playing out those same behaviors when we're adults, but we're not children anymore, we're adults. And we need to now re-examine them and go, do I still want that behavior in my life? Or do I want to, as you would say, reprogram it so I can live a different type of life?
That's the most important insight that people need to know right now. Because as I said, if you're playing a subconscious program, by definition, you're playing it not with consciousness, you're playing it without you even paying attention to it. And I say, but why? Well, that's what I said. The conscious mind is creative, but the conscious mind can think. I go, so what's the difference? I say, well, creative is all that imagination, but thinking is an inside. If I ask you, I say, tell us what you're doing next Monday. And it's not written here anywhere. And for a moment, you're going to say, oh, let me think. And then you're going to come up with an answer. And I say, yeah, but where was the answer? It wasn't out here. The answer was in here. So I said, oh, then you had to redirect your attention for thinking to look inside. But the moment you're looking inside, then you're not, by definition, using the conscious creative mind to look outside. And that's when the subconscious, as the autopilot, steps in and will manage the things that you're not paying attention to. But it will only manage it according to the downloaded program that you got in that first 7 years. And it's very hard. If I say, well, what program did you get in that first 7 years? And the issue is this, well, you were being programmed before you were born. Last trimester of pregnancy, we already know that programming is occurring. I mean, a simple thing is if you play music through the abdominal wall when a woman is pregnant and the fetus is inside, she plays the music. When that baby is born, it will instantly remember or know that music. It even, if the father is talking, the voice of the father is transmitted through the abdominal wall. Baby is born, the father says something, the baby knows exactly who.
Wait, really? What do you mean, man? How about those guys who go to clubs, or those ladies who go to clubs when they're pregnant? How their kids affected? Like, this is so new to me. This is so new. And it's mind blowing, bro. Wow. Let's continue.
Who that voice is. So that's even before you're born, okay? Then I say, yeah, but you got programmed from before birth. You got programmed a whole year from 0 to 1. I say, so what do you remember? You go, there was no memory there. I say, okay, you got another whole year of programming from 1 to 2. I say, what programs you got? He said, I don't know, because consciousness wasn't engaged. And so the problem is programmings were coming in, but the individual had no conscious awareness of the program. It just was record, playback, record, playback. That's what it's all about. And then I say, well, this becomes a problem, because then I say, well, what are your programs that essentially control your life? And the answer is, I have no idea what those programs are. So I just want to help people for a second, because it is established that only 5% of the time are we using the conscious creative mind to run our life. 95% of the time is coming from the program. So here's a simple insight. The things that come into your life that you like, they come into your life because you have a program to accept them. But those things that we want and we work hard and we sweat over and put a lot of effort, I'm going to make it. I'm going to make this happen. I'm working on it. I'm working real hard. Why are you working so hard? And the answer is not because the universe won't give it to you, is because unconsciously your program does not support that destination, and you're trying to override it with extra work and effort. So then life becomes a job, more or less, trying to get those things you want when your program unconsciously is sabotaging you. When people say the mind, the idea that, there's a mind, a single mind, I go, well, that's the first mistake. There are two minds. We mentioned conscious and subconscious. But we also have to mention this. They each have a different function, and most importantly, they learn in different ways. So the conscious mind's creative, and that means it's the one with the imagination and things that you want and you desire, and you can put that in. And you could read a book, a self-help book, and you say, oh, I got all this knowledge now from this book, and I went to the lecture, and I did all these things. I got all this knowledge. My life hasn't changed. I go, well, that's because the conscious mind, being creative, can learn in any number of different ways. You can just go, aha, I have a new idea, and your conscious mind can change. The subconscious mind, by definition, is the habit mind. And I go, significance. Habits resist change, because if habits change, then they're not habits anymore. So all of a sudden you say, well, if I download a habit, can I, think out of that habit? I go, no, because that's not how it learns. And so the conscious mind, and most people are very smart. I'm sure, look, this audience has been listening to you for a long time. They got great understanding, and many of them will go, yeah, I really understand what you've been talking about, but somehow or other, with all that knowledge, my life is still the same. And I go, that's because when you educate the conscious mind, that's easy. But that process does not create a habit. So you can have a super smart conscious mind, all the data, all the material. I read the book, I know everything about it. I go, yeah, but that doesn't change the program on the inside. A lot of people think, well, I'm going to give myself a good talking to. And that's where the joke comes, because I say, there's nobody in the subconscious mind. It's the exact equivalent of a hard drive in a computer. It's got programs in it. There's nobody in it. And you can talk till you're blue in the face with the conscious mind, trying to tell the subconscious mind, change the program. I go, that's not how it learns a program.
Where does stress fit in here? Because if you look around society these days, many people are living in a state of stress.
Yes.
So how does stress and living in a stress state relate to our conscious and non-conscious minds?
That is perhaps one of the most important questions in this world right now, for a very simple reason. We believe so many issues and diseases are associated with genes. And I say, when I was teaching in a medical school, what was I teaching doctors? Well, at that time, genes turn on and off, and genes control the character. And then I say, well, as far as you know, you didn't pick the genes, and if you don't like your characters, you can't change the genes. And since they activate themselves, then you become a victim of your heredity. Oh my God, there's cancer running in my family. I have a cancer gene. And I go, okay, let's get to a real simple fact. Less than 1% of disease is connected to genes, less than 1%. 90% plus is all stress related, okay? So all of a sudden I say, well,
Really?
you want to try to adjust the genes. I said, the genes didn't have a problem. It was the stress that was causing the problem. And now with the new science, it's called epigenetics. It sounds like genetics, but epi means above. So what we call skin, epidermis, because just below the surface skin is a layer called the dermis. Epidermis means above the dermis, that's the skin. So I say epigenetics means control epi, above the genes. And now there's a whole new understanding because we're not victims of the genes. We understand now that we actually control our genetic activity through our consciousness, or subconscious, more importantly, because that's 95% of the time. A big important point. This is like maybe a lot of people in the audience are going to freak when I say this, but for example, there's no gene that causes cancer. Everyone says, oh, oncogenes, cancer genes. I go, no, there's no gene that causes cancer. They're correlated with cancer, but they're not the cause. So especially like women are very concerned because they get, oh, I've got diagnosed, I have the BRCA, breast cancer gene. Immediately, what's the consciousness of the programming that people have? The gene is going to give me cancer. And now the fear of cancer rises in them because they say they have this gene. And then I go, well, guess what? 50% of the women carry this gene never get the cancer. So the first thing you have to understand is this: possession of the gene doesn't cause the cancer. It's a life that's not in harmony, a life that's out of balance. That's when that gene is activated. So we've been blaming genes, but we're never giving any credit or power to the person who can influence those genes. And this is what epigenetics is all about. Consciousness is controlling your genetic activity.
It reminds me a little bit of an autoimmune theory that I think was first put forward by Dr. Fasano in America, I think at Harvard, where he put forward that you need three things in order to have an autoimmune disease. You need, yes, the genetic predisposition, not the genetic destiny, the genetic predisposition.
Yes.
You need some sort of environmental trigger.
There you go.
And you need a degree of intestinal permeability, which is also known as leaky gut colloquially. It says if you have those three things, then you can develop autoimmune disease. And I always found that really fascinating because it kind of made sense to me that, yes, you can have a certain genetic blueprint, but actually how that blueprint plays out is going to depend on your environment and your lifestyle.
100%. That's so important. There's a very interesting insight here, and that is when people follow the fate of a child adopted into a family where there's cancer, they find that the adopted child will get the same family cancer at the same probability as any of the natural siblings. So an adopted child gets that cancer. But here's the point. The adopted child came from totally different genetics. So it was not the genetics that pushed that cancer. It was being adopted into a family where the programming was not giving them wholeness, health, happiness. It's just stressful, very stressful programming. And as you said, stress. American Psychological Association recognizes 90% of doctor visits are stress-related visits. And we don't focus on the stress. That's like, a side thing. I say, no, it's not a side thing. It's the number one thing that is coming from the top down. And the genes are blueprints to make the proteins of the body, 100,000 different proteins, like building blocks, okay? Proteins are complex molecules, and they wear out. Proteins wear out all the time. So you have to replace them. I said, well, how do you replace this complex molecule? And the answer is DNA is a blueprint to make a protein. I go, so what? And I go, well, you go into an architect's office and she's working on a blueprint. And I say, well, ask her, is your blueprint on or off? And she would look at it and go, what are you talking about? It's a blueprint. It's no on and off. I go, precisely. Genes cannot turn themselves on and off. They don't self-actualize. They're controlled by environmental signals. And all of a sudden, oh my God, well, if the environment is controlling this, then your programming in the environment, your lifestyle in the environment, and all these other things now become the primary controlling factor of your genes, not the genes. And we have to let go because when I was programming the doctors that, genes turn on and off and all that stuff, I was programming that people are victims. Because, as I said, as far as you know, you didn't pick the genes, you can't change them, they operate by themselves. And so we were programming victim. And then it turns out the new science of epigenetics is not victim, you're the one that's actually controlling it with your behavior.
This actually reminds me of a time when I decided to research on these things, because I've really been encountering or watching videos that explain more about belief, reprogramming, epigenetics, neuroscience, neuroplasticity, and I really wanted to know how these things really work. And whatever is explaining is just telling me to even go deeper, because I'm really fascinated with this topic and I really want to know the exact thing, because since we are the only people who affect our lives, I really need to know the exact things and start doing the right things. So watching this video, I'm really learning a lot, and I know you're also learning, because this is a real gem, man.
Well, what I have to say is this: knowledge is power, and lack of knowledge is a lack of power. When people don't know that they're involved with their own life and their own genetics and their own behavior because they're programmed to be the victim, then they become a victim because they have no knowledge of this. And what you're doing, what I'm doing, is let's wake up. You are powerful if you understand how this works. And if you don't understand how it works, you just say, no, it's not me. I'm not in control. And people walk away feeling like there's nothing I can do. The genes are controlling this, and I don't control the genes.
So you just said you are the one controlling just behaviors. What if we monitor what we're doing, all our habits, our beliefs, and our actions? Will our lives still remain the same? Or are we going to have maybe a quantum leap in our lives? Let's watch. Maybe we can learn from here.
I go, well, that's the story that's wrong. And when people are allowed to walk away from a medical practitioner with that belief, then that practitioner in no way has helped that patient, because the idea is this: as you said, I've got to help them get a better attitude when they walk out of this building. I have to give them more power so that they have more power, because if they walk out saying there's nothing I can do, then the game is over at that point.
I'm interested in your individual journey, Bruce, because you come from a very, very strong and respected scientific background. Because a lot of people may think, yes, some of these concepts may sound spiritual. And as I get older, I'm very interested with the intersection between science and spirituality anyway. But, epigenetics is something I've been aware of for maybe 10, 15 years, something like that. You were, I think, talking about this way before anyone.
1967.
1967, right? I don't have the term epigenetics even been coined then?
No, because my research at that time showed the role of epigenetics, but there was no term epigenetics. So we actually created a word called transformation, that something transforms the existing thing. Now it's called epigenetics. That's the mechanism of how your consciousness can rewrite this program. And I saw this. I was cloning what are called stem cells.
So could you explain what a stem cell is?
I should say that because people don't know, so let's make a simple point. A body is made out of 50 trillion cells. That's a number that is so massive that you can say it, but you can't imagine it. And every day, every one of us is losing hundreds of billions of cells every day, normal attrition. Skin cells are sloughing off. The whole digestive tract, the lining of the digestive tract from the mouth to the anus, this is massive amount of tract. The lining is replaced every 3 days. And I started to say, well, if I keep losing the cells, would I die? And I say, well, if you can't replace them, of course you would die. And I say, yeah, but then I say, how can I keep losing cells and still replace them? The answer is, before you were born, these were embryonic cells that were giving you the structure and function, okay? After you're born, you still have embryonic cells in your body, but you're not an embryo. So we changed the name, call it stem cell, because before birth, I could do a biopsy and look, say, here's an embryonic cell. If I wait 1 minute after birth, look at the same biopsy, look at the same cell, now it's, no, that's called a stem cell. So Stem cells are embryonic cells. They're there to replace all the cells that are going wrong. So my research revealed that I was cloning stem cells. And that all of a sudden, what does that mean? I say I put one cell in a dish, one stem cell, and it divides every 10 hours about. After a week, I've got 30,000 cells in the Petri dish because they keep doubling and doubling and doubling, okay? Here's my experiment, and it was like so clear. I took those 30,000 cells, and now you have to recognize they're genetically identical cells because they only came from one parent. So 30,000 genetically identical cells. I split the cells up into 3 dishes, 10,000 cells in each dish. So all the dishes have genetically identical cells. But we grow them in the lab, something called culture medium. And this, we're going to come back to this. That's critical. Because what is culture medium? I'll give you a hint. Laboratory version of blood. So if I grow human cells, I say, what's human blood made out of? Because that's what nourishes cells. And I make a version in the lab called culture medium. Since I'm synthesizing culture medium, I can change some of the combinations of the chemistry. So I create 3 different versions of culture medium, slight chemistry difference. And I feed the cells. In one dish, I feed them version 1 of the culture medium, in the other version 2, and the third dish, version 3. In the first dish, the cells form muscle. In the second dish, the cells form bone. In the third dish, with a different environment, the cells form fat cells. And here I am teaching in medical school that genes control life, and here's my laboratory experiments to say, all these cells are genetically identical. How come one became muscle, how the other one became bone, how the other one became fat? And it was like, it was based on the culture medium. And all of a sudden I said, oh my God, the cell fate wasn't controlled by the genes, it was controlled by the environment in which the cells live. And if you change the environment, you change the fate of the cells. So that completely canceled the idea that genes were in control.
And that's on the micro. And on the macro, we humans are, as you say, 50 trillion cells or something like that. And our culture medium is the environment around us now.
No, okay. And this is the real important part. Let's look at the body as a skin-covered Petri dish. Why? I got 50 trillion cells under my skin. Instead of a plastic dish, it's a skin dish inside. But I have the original culture medium, which is blood. And I say the chemistry of the culture medium, whether the cell's in a plastic dish or whether it's in the skin dish, it's still the culture medium that controls the fate of the cells. So in the human body, it's the blood chemistry that actually activates the genetics in the cell. And I go, so why is this significant? I said, well, what controls the blood chemistry? It's going to make an important point right here. And I say, the brain is the chemist. And
Okay, you see, you're just trying to explain about the environment around us, how it affects our genes, and the way we respond towards the environment or whatever happens, either outside us or whatever affects us. So let's see.
puts in the stuff into the growth factors, emotional chemicals, neuropeptides, things like that, adding it, putting it into the blood. And then comes the most important question. So the blood is the chemist putting the chemistry into the blood. The chemistry in the blood is the culture medium. So the chemistry of the culture medium is controlling the fate. Okay, got that. But then the most important question comes, what chemistry should the brain put in to the blood? What chemistry? And then comes the answer, which is so blow away. And the answer is this: whatever picture you hold in your mind, the brain translates that into complementary chemistry. If I have a picture of love, my brain releases wonderful things into the blood, like dopamine for pleasure, oxytocin to bond with others, a growth hormone. And growth hormone does exactly what it says. So when you're in love, you're releasing this growth hormone, which enhances your vitality. And that's why when people fall in love, they get so healthy. They get, they say, oh, look how they glow. They're so in love. And I go, this is the chemistry of the blood engaging the behavior of the cells. But I say, well, but what if I'm holding a picture of something that scares me? I say, well, you're not going to release love chemistry. You start to release stress hormones and factors that affect the immune system and all that. And I said, well, that's a different chemistry. I go, yeah, just like in the culture dish, a different chemistry leads to a different genetic activity. And all of a sudden I said, oh my God, your thoughts are being turned into complementary chemistry, which then controls your genetics. And this all of a sudden says, well, then if I want to change my genetics, do I have to go in and change the cells in the genetics? I said, no, it's changing your thought. That's all you have to do.
Yeah, and I think people, if they really self-examine, they already know that. They already know that when I feel scared or stressed or anxious, things happen in my body. You know, my gut starts to change, or you have an urge to go to the toilet, or you get a headache or whatever, right? So, and we know it's well-established scientific fact that stress, psychological stresses will elevate cortisol and all kinds of knock-on consequences in our body. So the fact that our thoughts change our biology, I think it's not, although it's quite obvious, I just don't think people realize that have positive thoughts that will influence your biology, have negative thoughts. What's interesting, and that will also influence your biology.
Absolutely.
And I've heard you say, Bruce, in an interview I've heard you in the past, I think you said 60% of these unconscious programs are disempowering and are limiting beliefs that
Yes.
we've acquired from other people. 60%.
Yes, that's a massive number. And then recognize, but that 60% is coming from the subconscious. So the individual playing that subconscious is the one that they're not even aware they're playing the subconscious. So their life seems to be out of control. Oh, I want to be happy. I want to have a great job. I want to have a great romance. I said, that's conscious wishes and desires. Conscious wishes and desires, subconscious habit. Okay?
So how do we change it?
I've really, over the years in my study, now I really understand how you change it. And the idea is, well, how do you change a program? That was the issue. Not how you change the conscious mind, how do you change the subconscious mind? Because it doesn't learn. Conscious mind learns by just whatever you read the book, I learned it, okay? Subconscious mind doesn't learn that way. I say, how does it learn? I say, well, in the first 7 years, that's when I said the programming went in. The brain wasn't functioning at the higher level of consciousness. It was actually a little lower. That was called theta, the vibration, the imagination, and all that. That's hypnosis, okay? So the first way we learned programs was hypnosis, because the function of the brain wasn't. It was at a lower vibration. Some people might remember the old days when hypnotherapy, they'd have a watch, and the hypnotherapist said, swing the watch back and forth, and they would say, "You're getting tired. You're getting tired." And what was the point? When you get tired, you lower the vibration of the brain. And the moment you fall asleep, actually, consciously, the next level of activity of the brain is theta before it goes down to the lowest vibration, delta, sleep. So every night when you go to bed, there's a period just after you close your eyes and you're essentially disconnected for a moment, your brain is operating in theta. Well, theta is hypnosis, okay? So I said, well, that's how your brain was in theta during that childhood period as predominantly. Now you're an adult. I say, yeah, but you have theta every night when you go to bed. So I said, what can you do? And this is the old story. You've heard people do it. You put a pair of earphones on at night. You play a program that you want to be true in your life. And while you're awake, you might hear the program, but it's the moment you fall asleep, the conscious mind shut off, but the subconscious mind is now in record, theta. So whatever is coming through the earphones at that moment after you fall asleep, you don't hear it, but the subconscious mind is hearing it and downloading it in a state of theta. So the first way of changing a belief system is to get into theta. And this is called self-hypnosis. Put the earphones on, play the programs for health, happiness, love, joy, whatever, and just go to sleep, which is really cool because you don't have there's no studying here. You just play the program.
Yeah. I mean, so you're saying when we're tired, so that's, I guess, last thing at night, maybe first thing in the morning as well?
Same thing, but it's a little harder to judge when you're coming awake rather than when you're going to sleep.
Got it. So the nighttime, just before you go to bed, a really important part of the day where you can, I guess, consciously make a decision to reprogram your subconscious mind.
Yeah.
What does this look like? Is this self-recordings that people make? Is this, I don't know, like, for example, are there hypnosis programs that they download? Or sometimes people will fall asleep to conversations like these. So help us all understand, is it something specific, or are all of these things helpful?
Well, all these things are helpful, but the most specific ones are when you have put in a
Those
program that
that's
you specifically want to be true in your life.
wow.
You're not having good relationships. Well, these programs are available all like bookstores and online. They're called self-help programs basically. And I say, well, you can get them for anything, whether it's job related, relationship related. You pick out the one you want, and then I say, just play this. And the point is, the moment you're falling asleep, the only part of you that is hearing that program is the subconscious, because that's how it works in theta. So you can download, it's called self-hypnosis, and that's how you can do it. That's number one. I'm talking about in a natural child, theta is the present program for the first 7 years, is predominantly that.
So they're in theta, so they're absorbing everything.
Everything.
But when we become adults, we're not in theta apart from at specific times.
But you can still learn. You learn how to drive a car after age 7. You learned a lot of, like, play an instrument after you're age 7.
So that's not hypnosis, though, is it? So method 1 is hypnosis.
Yes.
But it sounds like there's other methods as well to change the programs.
After age 7, the second way that you put programs in is doing something that you practice and repeat. Practice and repeat. Habituation. You make a habit by practicing it. And so you don't know how to play an instrument. You practice. You finally get it. You don't have to practice anymore. You can just pick up the instrument and play it. Or driving a car. You don't have to worry about all the details. First time you got in the car was, oh my God, there are mirrors, windows, gauges, pedals, paying so many things you have to pay attention to. Today, you get in the car, you put the key in, you start it up, and you're thinking about where you're going. Why? The rest of the driving is habit. You don't have to think about all those things. It's automatically programmed. So habituation is the second form.
I love that. I just want to share an analogy from golf here, if you don't mind, because and I'd be very interested in your perspective on this. I used to read a lot about choking, when top sports people would choke. And there's an example of a golfer called Rory McIlroy, who he was leading the Masters golf tournament a few years back. He had a big lead. And, this is just one example. I'm not having a go at Rory. This is just, it's common in all sports where people almost self-implode. And for a few holes, like, he could barely swing the golf club. And what was really interesting is, as I was sort of reading a lot about it, trying to figure out what's going on here, it's this conscious subconscious, again, where he knows how to drive the golf ball, better than most people on the planet.
Yes.
So he's playing usually from his subconscious. The patterns are in, he knows how to shape the ball right to left to right, whatever. But in that moment where it's like, oh man, I'm leading the Masters, I need to be really careful now. He's trying to think, well, certainly this is what people say. I don't know what was in his mind, but you're almost overthinking. You're now trying to control something that you could naturally do, as you say, driving.
Yeah.
If you were thinking about, when do I put the clutch down, or what timing is it with the accelerator? If you drive a manual, it's the same kind of thing, isn't it?
Absolutely. But in fact, really, when he's playing the game, he's playing it in the conscious mind, in the sense that he has a vision. I'm going to hit this ball and it's going to go into that hole over there. Very important, because there's a destination and there's a means to that destination. It turns out, and this is really most important, is if you focus on the destination and not on the means, let the system, which is so powerful, it will get there without you telling it how to get there. But when you start to interfere and say, okay, now I got to make sure I swing it right, my head's level, my grip is right, and all of a sudden you're putting all these details in. It's like, no, don't focus on the details. You forgot what the end was. The end was the ball is supposed to go over there. And so that starts to come in, because now you're trying to control everything with with this manual control. And it's like, no, you don't have to have the manual control. Matter of fact, that gets in the way. The body knows what you want. You don't have to tell it how to get there. That's a big issue in our lives, because I want to be successful. How? Oh, I got to do this. I got to do this. And I say, oh, you're planning all these things, and Your conscious mind is not even any. The subconscious is a million times more powerful a computer than the conscious mind. So I say you're going to take this little small conscious mind and try to run the bigger computer. It's like that doesn't work. Let go of the control, and this is the whole thing. I mean, it's I just came to my mind. A lot of people say, "Let go, let God," or something like this. Some phrase that people always say, and I go, "Well, that's actually the way to do it. Focus on what you want." But don't try and tell the universe how it's going to happen. Don't tell them that I'm going to do this and this is going to happen. I go, no, you just focus on what you want. The intelligence of this supercomputer, the subconscious supercomputer, it will handle it unless you put your hands into the machine. I said, keep your hands out of the machine. Focus on where that ball's going to go. I mean, he already practiced. Remember, I said, we did the habit. We did the practice. Whether you're driving a car or hitting the golf ball. Practice.
Yeah, so it starts off in conscious and then becomes subconscious. I think people can all resonate with that, whether it's a sport or
100%.
musical instrument, right? It's
Same
the
thing.
Same kind of thing. So again, it's not that hard to believe that if you practice the patterns that you want, after a while, they're going to happen automatically.
This is exactly what it's all about. You don't think about the details of driving when you're driving. You know, they just automatically, you could have conversation, you could be off in thought, and you're still driving the car.
So what's an example of, we mentioned the first method is hypnosis.
Then the second one is habituation.
The second one is habituation and repetition and practice.
Yes.
So do you have any examples of things that people can practice, can do and go, right, I'm going to practice this so that I start to change my subconscious behaviors?
Well, this is exactly true. You know, what's interesting is actors that are really good have a character. They read the character, they learn the lines, but they have to act like a character, okay? It's not just reading the words. And what I'm trying to say is, who you think you are is what you could get there. But now the problem is, who do you think you are? And I go, well, that's part of the programming. When we grow up, here's the biggest problem in programming, I'll tell you right now. Parents act as coaches for their kids. I go, what does that mean? I say, well, let's say a kid on a sports team isn't doing well. The coach doesn't say, oh, please try harder. No, he says, that's not good enough. Who do you think you are? You don't deserve to be on this team. But this kid is older and conscious and aware when the coach is saying that, the coach is trying to say, do better. That's what you should do. A child under 7 is not in consciousness, but a child under 7 is in record. So the parent's acting as the coach. That's not good enough. Who do you think you are? You could do better than this. I say, the child under 7 is, I'm not smart enough. I'm not deserving. I'm not good enough. That's a program. Okay? They didn't understand the meaning of the parent under 7 because consciousness was not that function of the brain at that time. Just record. And I say, well, this is where the problems come from in our lives. Because parents want to help us, so they figure if they needle you, stick you, that you're going to do better without recognizing if the child's under 7, they don't have any comprehension of what you're saying, but they are recording. And then you'd say, well, then 95% of my life is coming from what? Not smart enough, not good enough, not deserving. And if that's the program that's running, then the behavior will manifest that program. Not good enough, not smart enough, not healthy, whatever it is. And so we have to recognize we become these programs. And if you want to change, that's when I say, the new age, I always laugh about it, it's called fake it till you make it. I said, what does that mean? I said, well, you're not a happy person. I go, so what? And I say, then all day long, whenever you can remember, you just say, I am happy. I am happy. No matter how miserable you are, you just keep repeating it because repeating is habituation. Practice, repeat. And then one day you wake up and guess what? You're happy. Why? Because once that program is installed, then the expression of that subconscious will manifest that program.
So, my question is, who do you think you are? Who do you say you are? Who are you? I think we are all learning from this video, because whatever Bruce Lipton is explaining here is very crucial in one's life. I hope you are learning something, because I've been really watching his videos and the interviews he's had in different channels, and even I'm planning before this month runs out, I'm gonna start reading his book. It's called Biology of Belief. And I believe it's gonna change my mind, it's gonna change myself, and it's gonna improve me and elevate me to a different person, because I don't really wanna live the same way I've been living since I was young, because there are a couple of things that I need to change in my life, because I'm not satisfied with whatever is happening in my life right now. So what I need to do is just focus on the right things, do the right things, and as I'm learning here, everything in one's life begins with the how you see yourself, what you believe in, your habits, and what you do. Like, since already I have the information from the video, and it's not just this video only, I'm learning from different videos. So the information I'm having, the information I'm getting, if I practice, as he said, your habits and repetition, if I do the right things and do the right things each and every day, I know it's going to improve me. So I also challenge you, whatever you're learning from the video, you can go ahead and start doing it. Just once you know what you want and you know the right things to do, you can start from, just start now. Just start now doing it. You'll see some change, even if it's not instant. With time, something might change in your life. So I really thank him for this content, and even the interviewer, because he's really asking the right and perfect questions for me, because I'm learning. So going forward, this is what I'm going to do. Whatever I'm learning from the video is what I'm going to do, and I am certain my life is going to transform. Yes, it's transforming, but I'm not yet to the that point where I'd really wanna be. But so that's why I'm putting in work every day and trying to change my situation at the moment. And I believe everything is going to work perfectly. I just need time and repetition, repetition. As long as I do the right thing, because the reason our lives tend to remain the same, or just we stay in the same environment or the same situation for the longest time, is because we almost every day we do the same things, we talk about the same things, and that can't change anything in our lives. The only solution to our problems or our situation, our current circumstances, is change, and we really need to change. And everything from there will we just experience some changes in our life. So I believe you've learned from the video. So as we wrap it up, maybe you can comment down there whatever you've gotten from the video, or I know I'm going to do a lot of reactions to different videos that maybe help you reprogram and learn a lot about yourself, and also that it'll get you in one way or another. So thank you for watching. I hope this information is also going to help you learn how to interact with your kids, or if you're a parent, it's going to help you raise your kids in the right way. I believe so, because I know maybe in future I might be a parent, or yeah, I know I'll become a parent soon, or maybe in a few years to come, and I want to do the right things for them. I don't want them to live the same life I've been living. I don't want them to be programmed in the same way I've been. So it's time we do the right thing for us, the people around us, and even for the generation that is coming. Alright?